right under the instant trade. It's called trade templates. And you land here, this will be a list of all the templates you've set up. You'll go to the add button, and here is where you will set up a trade template. You want to give it a name. So that's pretty straightforward. It's basically looking to describe the trade type it is. And normally I look to kind of put in like credit target or delta target and stop loss in the title. So I'll usually do something like test 1, 2, 3, and I'll do like delta 30 and then stop loss like 2x. That will give me a sense quickly eyeballing the name. Hey, this is what this is trying to target. Then I will select the symbol that I'm trying to execute this on. So SPX in this example. And then I will select the trade type. Now there's quite a few trade types here, but I think the most common thing you'll see people do is sort of this iron condor, which is essentially independently managed iron condor that's put on at the same time, but each of the verticals are managed separately. And again, if you ever get stumbled or sort of stumble upon any section, just simply click the icon and it will actually bring up the knowledge base internally that we manage at TAT that will kind of help you understand like what you're looking at in this specific template section. So that applies to all sections within the template section. And here you'll want to either credit or delta target. So we're just setting up a simple MEIC example. So, let's say we want a credit target. We want to do a minimum of 50 cents and a maximum of $1.25. And then you get to decide what kind of, how should TAT try to achieve that credit for you. So I normally have it either on mid, meaning, hey, find me something in the middle of those two numbers here, or highest credit. And that is controlled on the put side and the call side separately. For puts, you could ratio as well. Like let's say you want to set one put and two calls. You could also select the distance from the money. Like let's say, hey, you don't want to go you want to be at least 5 points from the money. So you just simply would put in 5 here, and that would keep you 5 points from the money, whatever strike it selected. Or you can go -5 and it can get you in the money if you don't mind selling something in the money. And same thing would apply here. So we would just, 0.0850. We'll just change this to 0 because that's kind of mostly what people do. And then highest credit. And then we'll just do a 1-to-1 ratio. So just one of each. Then long strike selection. So normally, if you want to control buying power, you want to control the width. And then you simply just plug in 100 and then maybe 105, 110. You want a decimal place. Between each of the long wing selections. So if you're 100 wide, probably want to give it some choice in case a strike is missing. You could also go max premium. So minimum premium you want to pay max premium, meaning I don't want to pay more than 15 cents a wing. And then the max width, I don't want you going out more than, let's say, 150 wide. And that will essentially create the same sort of thing. Here, you're talking about days to expiration, pretty straightforward. Most of, TAT predominantly used for 0DTE. So we're just going to put 0DTE here. And you don't want this accidentally filling over X amount, right? So let's say if there's a quick move and, things are moving quick from the option chain perspective, probably want to put like a $1.40 here. You don't want this to be filling for more than $1.40 and no less than 30 cents. Just give it some, parameters. And again, if you ever get stumbled, if you stumble on anything, you have it right here. Stop loss configuration. This is how you want the stop to occur. I prefer stop market, and that's pretty straightforward. You can, because I'm in Schwab right now, there's some limitations in how TAT will sort of stop. You can look at other brokers that have vertical stops, and but for this example, we're just going to use short stops. So meaning we're just stopping on the short leg, multiple, meaning you want it to stop, let's say, a 2x of credit. You could also give it an offset trigger, and trigger is STD. So STD is standard, I think it's called in Schwab, and that's usually pretty good on just like tight, very minimal slippage type stops. And then you could decide what to do with the long behavior, meaning the wing you have left, what do you want to do with it? And then stop price basis, you want to do it on just a short. So it's going to multiply, let's say, just the short wing times, 2 essentially. Do you want to do it exact price, whatever you filled at, times 2? It's up to you how you want to set, what parameter you want to use to set the stop loss. Now, stop loss adjustments are things you could use throughout the day to tighten stops, meaning as premium, decays, you may want to tighten stops. If that tests well, this is the section to do it in. So every time you could essentially tighten stops further and further. Just make sure that it's, activated at a certain time, that you have, a certain trigger, meaning, hey, if I reach a certain profit level, I wanted to tighten to X. So that's where you fill that in here. And again, if you ever get lost, simply just, press the eye icon and you'll be able to walk through exactly what each, how to set this up. And then profit targets. Some people are seeking to, take profit a bit earlier. Same sort of thing. You may want to look at percentage. You may want to look at price. And then cancel profit targets if it doesn't happen by X amount of time. Timed exit is pretty straightforward. You want to exit a trade at a specific time in the day, meaning, if the profit target is not hit, I want to exit at, I usually have some trades that, I specifically like to exit at 349. This is really relevant for SPY. People who trade SPY, you don't want to wait for the last 10 minutes. Most of the K is already complete. So, hey, 0DT 349, exit the trade, basically. And you could actually also exit based on conditions here as well. So this is good for double calendars and so on. If you get breaches of certain like delta and so on, you could have conditional exits as well. And you can select as a limit order or market order. And then this section talks about re-entry. So what happens, let's say you get stopped, you could re-enter another trade and then just simply toggle this off and on. You'll be able to enter other trades, or after closing a profit target, you have the ability to enter more trades. You could delay re-entry, you could max amount of re-entries you could do, and then you could kill re-entries after a certain hour in the day. This right here, fill progression, will decide how many attempts TAT does to try to get you what you want, essentially. So this is going to fire that same template X amount of times. It's going to wait, X amount of seconds, and then it's going to adjust by the parameter you set. So normally I like to give it, 3 to 5 seconds in between, and about, at least 5 attempts to try to get me what I want. This is rarely doesn't fill. Maybe during extremely low volatility environments, this may be the case, but normally it's pretty good. And then this is key. I think you need to understand, I think about this ahead of time. How are you going to name your strategies? Because when you kind of review your strategy logs in the P&L section of TAT, you'll want to quickly be able to drop down strategy name and be able to see how so this one is pretty straightforward. I just call it MAIC. I would save template, and you're complete. You will then see it appear on the template section, and it will just appear under one of these right here. So you'll be able to categorize it, or sort of, drop it up or down alphabetically and so on. If you right click on any of these selector sections, you can actually also decide what you see column wise. So that's a nice little tip for those perusing through different sections. If there's just too many columns, simply right click and then you could show column chooser and you'll be able to see. You could essentially just not see, let's say, the trades type, and then it'll just remove it. So that's it.